A group of entitled teenagers tried to rob our store, sneaking merchandise into their coffee cups and their backpacks, all under the hope that we wouldn't catch them in the act. But after dealing with so many blatant thieves at our store, me and my manager were ready for just about anything. Because as a result, we caught them red-handed, forcing them to give back all the stuff they tried to steal. Here's what happened. So about a month ago, there was more theft than normal going on in a makeup store that I work at, and it's because of the fact that it was winter break. Unfortunately, when the teenagers in my area get a bit of free time, they feel it's appropriate to use it to come into our store and steal from us. We were finding wrapper after wrapper, box after box stuffed under aisles and in displays. It was really annoying because it reflects really poorly on the hours that we get. Anyways, towards the end of Christmas break, we started to slow down. People had bought all their presents and spent their gift cards, so there wasn't much going on. Well, that is except for this night in question. Me, my manager, and my two coworkers were the only employees there. We were only an hour from close, and there was maybe 2 or 3 customers meandering around the store. I was replacing all the trash bags while my coworkers were cleaning up the register area. At my store, it's sort of an unspoken rule that we make a point of greeting every single person who comes through the front doors. So when a group of these 3 teenage girls came through, both my coworkers greeted them. Well, they did what all teenagers who come in to steal do. They don't acknowledge the greeters in hopes of coming off as unapproachable, but my coworkers are seasoned retailers, so they immediately get on the walkie-talkies and alerted me to keep an eye out. My first greeter coworker said to me, "Look, the both of us just said hi to those girls, and they were acting a little bit weird. You might want to stay in that area and keep an eye on them." I said to them that I will, and I'll leave the trash over in the counter and I'll just pick it up later. Now, I didn't want the girls to feel like I was following them just in case we were wrong, and they really just didn't want to be talked to. So I stood in the aisle on the left side of the aisle that they were in. I had a direct view of them, but they would have had to come stand at the very end just to see me. At first, they were just having a bit of fun, spraying our hand sanitizer testers at each other and opening the sugar scrubs to smell them. Nothing that I honestly really care about. But then the sound of crinkling paper made me lean in closer, just to see what was going on. I noticed that the girl ripping the packet open was also holding a Starbucks cup, one of the white ones with a flat lid for hot drinks. I watched as she took the hand sanitizer out of its packaging and removed the lid from her drink. I then watched her put the hand sanitizer in the drink cup and then replace the lid, and I knew I was going to have to tell my manager. So I jumped on my walkie-talkie and I said, "Does the manager have a walkie on? Because I just watched one of those girls steal a hand sanitizer." The manager responded in the affirmative and asked where they were. I told them that they were in the bath aisle and that I think they're heading up to the front very soon. Well, unfortunately, that wasn't entirely correct. The girls rounded the corner to the next aisle, which is the one that housed all the hairbrushes. A different girl, who had one of those Loungefly bags, unzipped it and put one of the Harry Potter themed hairbrushes in her bag. I mean, it didn't even zip up all the way. She tried to zip it up hard, but the end of the handle stuck out only slightly. They promptly abandoned that aisle and started making their way to the front of the store. I said to my manager that they're coming up right now. They put something in their drink cup and there's something in their backpack too. Now, we're not allowed to accuse people of stealing. We can get in trouble if we're incorrect, and we're definitely not allowed to hold them back from leaving. So I wasn't sure what my manager could do, but I wanted her to be aware. They made it up to the door when my manager stopped them, asking something she asked everybody who leaves our store empty-handed. The manager then asked the girl if there was something we could help them find today. The first girl said, "No, you guys don't have what we want." My manager responded by saying, "Oh, okay. Well, is there any way I can get back the stuff you took from us? You know, so I don't have to trespass you from the store?" The second girl chimed in and said, "Are you accusing us of stealing? We did not take anything." The manager then said, "I'm not accusing you. I can see one of my hairbrushes sticking out of your friend's bag." The girls all just sort of looked at each other, not sure what to do. Eventually, the girl with the backpack ripped the hairbrush out of it and handed it to the manager. They started to walk past her to the door when the manager stopped them again. She said to them, "Can you please give me back whatever you put in that cup? Then can you please just go?" The girl with the cup huffed and rolled her eyes. Nevertheless, she opened it and took out the hand sanitizer that was now covered in what looked to be hot chocolate or maybe some sugary coffee. She put it in the manager's hand, and then my manager said, "If you guys come back with your parents, I'm gonna have a talk with them because this is honestly really ridiculous, girls." They all then left really quickly, and we got to go about our business for the rest of the night. And with all the things I've seen at this store, as well as all the people I've seen steal from our store, this definitely could have been a lot worse. Wow, I cannot stand people who steal. It is such a dishonest thing to do, and honestly, I just don't like it. I don't know about you, but but for me, whenever I want to buy something, I feel so much better about buying it after I earn it with my own hard work. If it was just handed to me or if I stole it for some reason, I wouldn't have that same satisfaction of getting it because I worked hard. So whenever I see stories like this, I get really frustrated because it's so annoying that there's dishonest people like this in the world. Like they were totally ready to walk out with all that merchandise. And that, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled mom demands that I give up my seat for her son, claiming that he needs it more than I do, and that I should give it up just to do the right thing. And I'm honestly astonished by this lady's audacity. Here's what happened. So I work in the city and I usually take the bus home. As anyone who commutes knows, these buses can get packed, especially during the rush hour. On this particular day, I managed to snag a seat, which felt like winning the lottery after a long day at work. I had my earbuds in and I was half asleep, lost in my music. A few stops into my ride, an entitled mom and her son, who looked to be about 10 years old, got on the bus. It was clear from the get-go that there were no seats available, but that didn't stop this entitled mother from scanning the bus like she was on a mission. She then locked eyes with me and beelined in my direction. Now, the entitled mother's tone was more demanding than polite. She said to me, "Excuse me, could you let my son sit down? He's really tired from his day and he needs to sit." Now, I was surprised that she singled me out, since there were other people, even some elderly, standing as well. I was about to respond, maybe even stand up, despite feeling exhausted myself, when a very helpful lady nearby spoke up. She said in a kind but firm tone, "Ma'am, it's not right to single out someone for their seat. We are all tired after a long day, so perhaps your son can manage standing for just a little bit." Well, after she heard this, the entitled mother's face turned a shade of red. She responded and said, "But he is just a child and children need to sit. It's common courtesy." The bus at this point was unusually silent, with everyone seemingly tuned into our conversation. But the helpful woman from earlier, undeterred, replied and said, "I understand, but so do the elderly, the disabled, and those who have had long days at work. We can't expect others to always give up their comfort for us. It's a valuable lesson in consideration and patience." The entitled mother looked ready to argue more, but seemed to realize that the bus audience wasn't on her side. She muttered something under her breath about rude people and then moved slightly away, still standing up. The rest of the ride was uneventful, but the atmosphere felt a bit charged. When my stop arrived, I got up and I passed the helpful lady from earlier. She gave me a small smile and a nod, as if to say that you did the right thing. I nodded back in gratitude, feeling relieved but also a bit surprised at how the situation unfolded. This is a really fun story for a few reasons, but my favorite reason is the fact that the original poster was not alone in realizing that this situation was ridiculous. Like seriously, the entitled mom in this story was completely out of line. They 100% singled out the original poster for some weird reason and decided for some reason that they're gonna take their seat. And it's like, seriously, that is so annoying. It would have been just as easy to stand there and wait for your stop instead of making a scene and making literally everything so awkward. So good for the original poster for not only having backup in that situation, but also in a roundabout way standing your ground. Because the way that entitled mom was acting was really uncalled for. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be super annoyed with her attitude. My husband has thrown me under the bus to his family with his silence and complete lack of spine. And at this point, after dealing with so much drama, I'm now unsure of how to move forward. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have been trying to have a baby for years, but with no luck. I would be happy to adopt, but my husband's family is against it, and has also influenced my husband to also be against it. After our second year of trying, I begged my husband to go with me to get a checkup to see if either of us or both of us were infertile. He was strongly opposed to this, as all the men in his family are extremely fertile, but eventually gave in, and as it turns out, his count, if you know what I mean, is extremely low. He was as heartbroken as I was, and we then both got into therapy. After a year of no longer trying, I got pregnant, but we lost the baby, and we were absolutely devastated. My husband blamed himself and proposed that we start the process of getting into a family planning center, also that we could find a donor. He asked me that we not tell either of our families about this, or even our friends, and I agreed, because I would never want to emasculate him. With the help of our donor, I was able to successfully become pregnant, and we had our little girl last year. She is healthy and progressing amazingly, and I thank God for her every single day. I kept my promise and I never told anyone. However, my husband is struggling struggling with connecting with our little girl. Now here is where the trouble begins. It all started last month when he went out of town with his brothers for their friend's bachelor party. While on the trip, my husband told his brothers about our infertility issues and that our baby wasn't biologically his. One of his brothers must have told his wife, who also told my husband's mother. Now I don't know why she would tell my husband's mother, except that she has never liked me. Their mother then came to our house and called me a lying jerk and tried to get my husband to leave with her. Well, he just stood there silent. I told her that it was my husband's decision not to tell anyone, and she asked him if that was true again, but he was just silent, which his mother took as me being a liar. So she then went to our nursery and started taking everything that she'd ever given us for the baby back. I told her I didn't care about it, and I made more than enough to buy everything she gave us myself, and I could get it in better quality. This set her off, and she called my baby a terrible name. And when she said this, I did something I know was harsh, but I believe that she deserved it. I physically pushed her out of the door. I didn't hit her, but I did put my hands on her shoulders, pushing her out of the door, and I threw all her awful things out with her. After spirits had calmed down, I realized that my husband had said nothing when his mother was berating me, as well as her calling me a liar. And when she called our child that awful name, I asked him why he was silent, and he said that he wasn't raised to be disrespectful the way that I was, and that his mother hadn't said anything that wasn't true. She was just hurtful with what she said, and that we should just let it go and wait for his mother to forgive us. I told him that I would never let it go, and that his mother and anyone else who agreed with her was not welcomed in our home, and that I don't need to be forgiven when I've done nothing wrong. He then said the house was his, and as the head of the family, it was his decision. I told him fine, but why did he allow her to call me a liar, as well as a jerk, if those things are not true? And our child should never be called the names that she said. He just repeated that he would not argue with his mother. After that, I stopped speaking with him, and I started gathering up my daughter's things and my purse, and I walked out the door with her. He tried to stop me and told me that I couldn't take his daughter anywhere without him, and at that moment, I lost a little bit of composure. I told him that she wasn't his daughter. He'd proved that he didn't see her as a daughter when he had allowed his mother to call her such awful names, and I told him that she wasn't his. He then broke down into tears and begged me to come back inside, but at the time, I felt nothing. He just looked incredibly pathetic to me. I've now taken my baby with me, and I've gone back to my parents and finally told my family the truth, which really feels good. They are completely in support of my decision and are not allowing my spineless husband anywhere near us, as he still refuses to apologize to me or to even set the record straight with his family. However, I told the sister-in-law that I was close to the truth, and she told the rest of his family. Half of his family is understanding, while the other half is on his mother's side, but they are all mad at my husband. I need time to cool off, but I know eventually my husband and I will need to figure our marriage out. One thing is for certain though, is that I will not return to his house until he apologizes to me and promises to protect me and his daughter fiercely. I want to see this in action form, starting with him telling his mother what she did was wrong and banning her from coming to see us until she asked for my forgiveness. We were also planning on having more children as he wants a big family, but that is now off the table as I don't believe he is ready and we both need to get back into therapy. So I'm honestly just blown away by all of this and I seriously don't know what to do. I think you perfectly described your husband as spineless because that is exactly what he is. This guy stood there and let his mother scream at you and your baby, calling her awful names, all because the both of you agreed to have a donor. And yes, the both of you did agree to that. This wasn't a one-sided decision. This literally took the both of you to figure this out. So the fact that he threw you under the bus and tried to make this seem like this was all your decision and that you somehow forced him into agreeing to this is honestly so disgusting. Like your husband is a massive jerk and there is no excuse for his behavior. So honestly, I wish you the best of luck moving forward because your husband is an absolute piece of garbage. And the fact that he allowed this all to happen to you is honestly completely unacceptable. My sister-in-law rolled her eyes at me when my husband took me to the hospital for a medical emergency. And right now I am feeling so angry at her reaction. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so to start things out, my sister-in-law absolutely hates me. I don't know why, but she just always has. It is so obvious and everybody can tell. Even my own husband, and even before we got married. I swear, she's the type of sister who is in love with her brother or something like that. It freaks me out, and I've dealt with her attitude and being the bigger person now for almost 5 years. So she came and stayed at our house this weekend because my brother-in-law is getting married, and she lives a state away. We were nice enough to let her stay with us instead of a hotel, as we do have a big house and it wasn't really an issue. I'm also, for the record, 31 weeks pregnant. My sister-in-law came on Thursday and the wedding was today. On Friday night, I started to have some really bad stomach cramps, and I really felt like I needed to vomit. This isn't really news to me. I've dealt with hyperemesis gravidarum my whole pregnancy, which honestly really sucks. I ended up calling it an early night, while my husband, my sister-in-law, and a few friends hung out in our living room and backyard. Well, at around 1 o'clock a.m., my husband came to bed when everybody was gone. He woke me up, and that's when the vomiting started. Again, not abnormal, but I noticed there was blood in the vomit. I immediately started crying, and my husband wanted to take me to the emergency room. Well, my sister-in-law woke up hearing my husband's keys and asked me what was wrong. I explained what happened, and I kid you not, this woman rolls her eyes and walks back to bed. Even though she didn't say anything, it's been eating me up for days. The whole wedding, all I could think of was how much of a jerk she is. I want her gone as soon as possible. I even want to call her out. And I want to do this so badly, but I don't want to be a jerk. I mean, how would you handle this? Would you call her out or would you let it go? She does live a state away, so I hardly even see her anymore. I want so bad to be the bigger person, but at this point, I don't know if I can. My husband says to just be the bigger person, as he doesn't really like her either, so we don't see her much. But it would just feel so good to me and my pregnancy hormones to tell her to shove it. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your sister-in-law is a giant jerk. That really is unacceptable, and seriously, I don't blame you for being upset. I know if I was in your shoes and I was going through all of that in the middle of the night, I would be furious the next day having to deal with her. Here you are opening up your home so that she doesn't have to stay at a hotel, and then she really has the audacity to be like, oh wow, the pregnant woman who's feeling sick is going to the hospital. It's like, lady, what are you talking about? I'm throwing up in a way that's not normal and I'm pregnant. Like, that really does not seem like an overreaction in the slightest. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would be telling the husband that no, I don't want her at the home anymore. Like, I completely understand where your husband's coming from, or even where you're coming from, where you're like, listen, I don't want to make a big deal and I just want to be the bigger person. But in my opinion, that can only go so far. Like, I can understand that every now and then, but this lady disrespected you in your own home. Like, that is not okay, and in my opinion, that should not happen again. And hopefully, for the sake of you and your husband, you never have to deal with her in this capacity ever again. My new job is treating me terribly, constantly treating me like garbage, as well as practically pushing me out of my job. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I currently work in an Italian fine dining establishment as a server. Previous to this, I worked as a bartender and server. I managed some restaurants over the years as well, and bounced around quite a bit over the years due to moving towards the greater Boston area. In late October, a former coworker coerced the owner of his restaurant to reach out to me because they were in dire need of help for the holiday season, and my friend recommended me even though I was managing at the time. This owner called me and practically begged me to come work there and gave me an ultimatum that if I didn't take the job at the time, it wouldn't be there. He promised me that I would fit right in and that money would be great immediately when I started. Well, fast forward to when I started, and I was essentially treated like garbage by my coworkers, and my managers follow a server hierarchy. Servers that have been there for years consistently get the best tables nonstop and literally leave with $800 to $1,200 every night on a regular basis. Meanwhile, I'm stuck with lesser tables consistently, and I have to fight to make $300 to $400 per night. And these servers put in the bare minimum. They show up 30 minutes late, and they do no side work at all. They are extremely greedy, and if they know that you've got a good table, they then tell the owner whom they're very close with. As time went on, I voiced my frustration regarding this due to the fact that the owner reached out to me randomly one day and asked me to come and work there, and that I left a management position for this. Well, when said owner heard this, he came back from his home in Florida and basically told us that he is only required to take care of his essential family, and that people like me will just get what they get. Some people have tried to help me make more money, considering I have my first child due in May, but unfortunately, I don't think it's on par with how hard I work and how I am being treated. And essentially, me showing any kind of concern is being chalked up to me being a jerk. A week ago, the owner called me and told me that I was going to be let go because there wasn't enough hours for the less busy season. But I insisted that he let me keep my job because of my child that is coming. Eventually, he let in, but now I just dread going there. The only thing keeping me going there is the real potential that somebody will quit and I can bump up to be one of those servers. Is there any way to circumvent any of this? place? Or should I try to find something better? What should I do? Okay, the fact that the owner said, hey, I'm gonna fire you, and you basically had to beg him to keep your job should be enough of a sign to you that no, this is not a place you want to keep working at. First of all, this guy was absolutely talking out of his rear end when he was telling you that, oh yeah, the money's gonna be great. You're gonna make so much money, it's not even gonna be a problem. But then, as soon as you start, reality sets in, and you can obviously tell that this guy was straight up lying to you. It is really not fair, and it's downright disrespectful, especially because you now know this guy's true colors, and he has shown his hand. Because you're not someone that he considers family, he's just gonna let you fall by the wayside and only care about the people he's been with forever. Like, this owner does not care about you in the slightest, and the sooner you realize that, the easier it's gonna be to find another job. So truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this, because the way you're being treated is unacceptable, and you absolutely deserve a lot better than this awful place. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.